I get $50 an hour for consultations.
Right.
I should charge more. Guy who fixes my car gets 80. Barely knows where the spark plugs are, much less how to conjure up Beelzebub.
What?
Hi, and welcome back to my channel. If you're joining me again, welcome back. Welcome to week two. Week two, and I'm already like dragging. Like, I'm tired. I should not be. I've done nothing, and girl's tired. But we're here. Hi, welcome back to my channel, week two. Yes, I'm gonna keep this YouTube thing going for a little bit. And y'all are here for the ride. I appreciate it. Happy Friday, everybody. Hope it was a good week. Back at it again with another thriller chiller from 2004. A cringy mess called Devour. It stars the oh-so-delicious Jensen Ackles and features lots of disturbing imagery and cringy plot points. Yeah, this one has its moments for sure. And again, I need to talk about it. Can we please talk about it? So the movie begins with Jensen walking through the forest. He's clearly hunting something when a mountain lion comes out of nowhere. So he shoots the mountain lion, and we can see him burying its like organs in the ground or whatever when he randomly hears a baby crying in the woods. But he goes and he follows the sound just further into the woods, and he comes upon like a shack. He walks in, and there's a woman laying naked on the ground. He walks up to her, and we get our very first it's some really disturbing imagery right off the bat. He, of course, goes to check on her, and she, turns around and hits him in the neck with a snake. She just had a snake. Hits him in the neck with it. It, rips his neck out.
What the what?
Y'all, this movie just started. Nothing has happened yet. So, I'm kind of confused right off the bat. What happened? But I guess it was just a vision of some shit, cause now he's just back in the woods. We then get this nice little opening scene kind of where he's going on a monologue about how he used to get these visions a lot when he was younger, and he's had them for as long as he can remember, but he never told anybody because they'd probably think he was crazy or something. It's very delightfully early 2000s. Anyway, we follow him to a college campus where we get to meet the first of his two best friends. Conrad. Seriously though, I hate this dude's fucking face. Turns out he's on a 3-day bender, and he looks like it. Let's just say this young man is troubled. We don't get to learn much more about it though, because the pair are immediately interrupted by a strapping young man named Darius. He pulls up in his car and asks Jake Jensen if he is going to play football for the school this year. They kind of have this back and forth about how he doesn't know if he's going to play. And then there's this weird unspoken animosity between Chucky, Conrad, and Darius. Then just out the goddamn blue, Conrad tries to pull a gun on Darius. Jake sees it, stops him. Darius also can see him. It's broad daylight and you're standing in front of his car. And there's this back and forth. Darius ends up telling Jake to keep his dog on a leash, and he drives off. Jake is obviously, what the fuck, dude? Where did you even get a gun? Why do you have a gun? You can't go around pulling those on people. And he says some shit about it told him to. Did not elaborate. He just said it told him to, and took off. So yeah. Oh, and also it's Jake's birthday, so happy birthday! We then follow Jake to class, where we get to meet his other best friend, Dakota, who's, let's say, flirtatious. She's another character where, last week with Dorothy, if she was a real person, then I could absolutely 1000% sympathize with her and could see that there are so many other deep-rooted issues with her personally. People are complicated and they have layers.
Onions have layers? You get it! We both have layers.
but she comes off as just cringe and like hypersexual and like sad and confused, and it's so much. She's so much in one character right off the bat. Anyway, she lets Jake know that she only came to class to give him his birthday gift, which then disrupts the class, calling the attention of the professor, which caused him to ask her to come to his office after class in the most suggestive and icky way possible. There's a quick little cutaway where we see Jake on a pier throwing the gun that he stole from Conrad into the water, and then he has another one of those like random ass visions. We now get to meet Jake at work. Apparently he works on like laptops and computers, which it's 2004, so for some reason that's just funny to me. He is then introduced to a beautiful young lady who does end up being the love interest, but I do have a couple problems. First of all, we established back when they were still in class that today is Jake's 21st birthday. Now, I don't know how old Jensen was at the time. He's definitely in his early 20s. I know that. I don't really care how old he is. It does not matter. My point being that he's supposed to be 21, and this young lady, like, she looks maybe in her late 20s, early 30s, mid 30s. Like, she has one of those faces where I feel like you're older, but I can't quite tell you what that number is. She just initially struck me as a little bit older than his character is supposed to be. Like a smidge too much. She's still mad pretty though. Like, she's beautiful. Anyway, so he tells her that she's got some wax inside her laptop, and she's like, oh, because of my tarot cards. And they kind of have this conversation about tarot, and they're kind of flirting a little bit. And then he just lets her leave free of charge because, she's a little piece of wax and she cute. And his boss apparently did not like that. Okay, so it's hours later. We are now at Jake's house. He's just now getting home. And we see his dad sitting on the couch with a cake, and it's got a candle for him to blow out. And there's like this weird switch where everything feels very gloomy all of a sudden. Like the second he went home, it felt sad, if that makes sense. And don't get me wrong, this movie has had dark themes and undertones the entire time. The first, 10, 15 minutes of the movie, there's been this like unspoken toxicity between so many people, and it does have that same like gloominess to it, but this feels very different. This feels like a completely different emotion altogether. Anyway, they have like this uncomfortable banter back and forth, like how are things at work and did you see your mom kind of thing, ending with his dad asking if he was going to go out that night. And then he just says the weirdest thing.
They look up to you, Jake, but they're still caught in the rain. Don't get wet.
But I don't have time to figure out what the hell that means because it's party time. Jake meets up with Dakota, who just looks sad again. And she tells Jake that when the professor actually called her to his office, he sexually harassed her. He basically told her, sleep with me or I'm gonna fail you, which, Jake, of course, tries to convince her to report him, but before they could really get into it, he gotta go save Conrad. Fighting yet again, and honestly, kind of getting his ass handed to him. Real talk, I don't know what the problem between Darius and Conrad is. They never actually address it, but they do not like each other. Which means that Jake has to now jump in to save his ungrateful ass. And then they scurry off to go drink alone. So I don't even know why they went to the party in the first fucking place. So the three of them are just hanging out, drinking together. Dakota's asking, like, what's your weirdest Christmas? While Conrad's in the back asking a bunch of random ass identity theft questions. So Jake proceeds to tell his friends the story of his weirdest Thanksgiving. He was building a ramp for his mom. Their pastor came over. Everybody was having a good time. They're smiling, laughing. It's a wonderful Thanksgiving. And then he just like imagines bashing everybody's heads in with a hammer. Cause yeah. And here I am this whole time thinking that he's the only normal one of the trio and like he's the glue that holds them together. And it's like, no, they all cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. Apparently unfazed by Jake's confession, Conrad directs their attention to something much more interesting. It's called the Pathway.
You give it your phone numbers and stuff. Then it calls you and gives you bizarre things to do.
And apparently Conrad has already signed Jake up for it. Yeah, that's why he was asking all those random ass questions. Like, all my dude's personal information is on the computer right now. Like a fucking screensaver. And it's like, they're unfazed by it. Like, they just out there doing reckless shit all the time. The next day, Jake is back at work, and looks like Pretty Lady left a box for him. Turns out her name is Marisol, and she just left a little gift for him. His boss gave it to him, and then promptly fired him. Because I guess, like, his nephew needs a job or something. And then when it's like, what the fuck, I need this job, you can't just do that, he hits him with this shit.
Sell pot like my nephew did. He made a killing before he got busted.
Bruh.
Then Jake's not even out the door. He gets a call from just like a random person basically offering to put a hit out on somebody for him. And he's just like, yeah, my boss, kill him. It's like, you're in the store. He never left. He can hear you, Jake. Like, but the voice on the phone is like, oh, sweet, you got a deal. And he's just smiling with that Jensen Ackles smile. We then find out that Jake's mother lives in an assisted living facility. And we're met with yet another random ass vision. We also learn that Marisol from the computer store also works at the facility, which kind of doesn't make sense to me because Jake established that he goes up there every week to see his mom, and you ain't never seen her before? Okay. Like, Marisol at one point even says, oh, this is the young man that keeps leaving you flowers every week. So you know who he is, but he doesn't. It's fine. You'd remember that face. Anyway, they're flirting again, and they exchange numbers, and it's all cutesy and whatever because his mom is there. I also have to point out here, like, it bothered me when she first showed up, and I didn't say anything, but, like, it feels like this actress is wearing a wig, and it, like, bothers me. Because it's like, if it is, why? She probably didn't need that. And then if it's not, it's her hair, then I need to talk to, like, the hair department, because what is that? Like, if my hair looks raggedy, it's because I'm poor. You have a whole ass department and a budget. Got this woman out here looking like an extra from Mars Attacks. The next day, Jake goes to pick up his final check, only to be met by the police because his boss is now accusing him of robbing the store. Even tried to hit him with the gotcha with the surveillance camera that was hidden back there. But it turns out that the pathway does work. Kinda. He didn't die, but he did get screwed over a little bit. Okay, so the next part is some of the cringiest mess I've ever seen. And I have to imagine that a part of that is because it does involve Jensen Ackles, who again is very yummy to me. But the scene just, I don't know if it's enough. I don't know. Like, yeah, you look good, but I still saw what I saw.
I think it.
So Dakota and Jake are like hanging out in someone's room, and she's feeling all on him, and the next thing I know, she's like on top of him in a chair. And then it just, I don't even know what happened. That was one of the cringiest, uncomfortable sex scenes I've ever seen. And like, I feel like I should have appreciated it more because it's Jensen Ackles, but there's just this weird blonde chick flopping like a fish all on top of him. And it's very disorienting. Also, logistically, I don't even know how that like happened. That couldn't have happened. Y'all didn't do nothing. which just makes it feel even more uncomfortable because she just dry humped the hell out of him. Then she hops off of him and is like, cool, whatever, I did it for the pathway. And then Jake offers up some more grade A cringe.
You just made love to me because the pathway told you to?
Why did you say that? Because I'm sorry, that's not what just happened. But Dakota did her part. She did what the pathway told her to do, and then she kicked rocks. Next thing we know, Jake is walking around his basement looking for something, and he gets a call on a phone that is not plugged in, but proceeds to answer it anyway because horror movies are made of stupid people. And of course it is the pathway calling to check in on him. How you doing? And then we're hit with some more disturbing ass imagery. There's like a demon lady lurking through his basement. He has a vision within a vision. He dreams that he accidentally kills his dad, and then he chops his tongue off. Just to wake up at his desk again. None of it was real. That's one thing that this movie is very good about. Like, again, the visuals are very disturbing, but they're really well done, and the way that they introduce them throughout the movie it's alarming every single time, because you don't know what is actually happening and then what is in his head. So the next part of the movie moves pretty quickly. Honestly, the rest of the movie moves pretty quickly up until like the last 5-10 minutes. So buckle up. So Conrad and Jake are just kind of playing catch with each other. Conrad's acting kind of weird. Turns out that he has been getting his ass handed to him again by Darius. He's covered in bruises. He like snaps at Jake for being concerned about him. Like, you guys have been friends since you were kids, and he's like mad that Jake wanted to stand up for him in the first place. It's really weird. Their friendship's weird. Honestly, the relationship between everybody just feels like we're missing so much important information, but we just like have to go with it. But like, that seems to be that, and everything's fine. And later on, Conrad actually reaches out to Jake, and he starts acting kind of sketchy. Like, it was really hard to gauge Conrad's character throughout this entire movie. Like, obviously, he's got some issues. He's got some anger problems. He's got some drug problems. Like, there's like very surface level stuff going on with him that like you can easily tell. But I don't know, like how he responds to other people, and even his relationship with his friends, like it seems off. It all just seems off. Anyway, so Conrad is actually calling Jake just to let him know, like, hey, I'm sorry, hey, we should get breakfast tomorrow, whatever. He's still acting a little strangely, but again, I think that's just his personality, so no one's the wiser. But after he gets off the phone with Jake, Conrad actually gets a call from presumably the pathway telling him just all the intrusive thoughts that we never want to hear about ourselves. Leave me alone! And then we're hit with that same demon from Jake's house handing Conrad a gun, who then proceeds to go to Darius's room and unload on him and his girlfriend. Because Chucky will kill you in any damn universe. The next morning, when Jake goes to meet Conrad for breakfast, he makes the unfortunate discovery that not only had Conrad killed both Darius and his girlfriend, he'd actually killed himself. He stabbed himself in the ears with some pencils. A little bit later, Jake ends up at Marisol's place. They're kind of flirting and kind of learning about each other, and a part of me is like, bro, your friend just died. And like, he didn't just die. But you know, get you some, whatever. Feels a little inappropriate, but it really just serves to show that they're like a thing now. Afterwards, Jake goes home, where he is met with his father, who apparently has just thrown 15 years of sobriety right out the window. He goes on a drunken rant about how they're tired of sacrificing for Jake and that he can't save him now, and basically he knows that he and his friends got into something. And then he basically implies that Jake had something to do with his mother's accident when he was an infant. A few days later, Dakota and Jake reconcile, and he asks her to stop playing the game out of fear of what happened to Conrad happening to them, and she invites him to bring Marisol to the restaurant she works at. Later that night, Jake takes Marisol over to the restaurant that Dakota works at. Jake tells Marisol that they're not going to stay very long because he has a surprise for her. And in walks Professor Fuckerfail, who proceeds to follow Dakota into the kitchen pretending that he thought it was the men's room and proceeds to just be overall disgusted, because of course he was. Talking about, did you think about my offer? Just, ugh. And then he goes to touch her and she rightfully slapped his hand. And he apparently does this shit all the time because he was completely unfazed. He was just like, all right, cool. I'll see you on Monday. And then shortly after he leaves, Dakota also gets a call. It's the Pathway, and they want to help her. So cut to Jake and Marisol. He has taken her to his little surprise, which is just him getting a tattoo, which that's not a date. I mean, it's an activity we can do together, but don't surprise me with you getting a tattoo. I like tattoos. Also, he told her like this was his surprise for her, but the entire time it felt like she took him there. Like it felt like she knew the tattoo artist. She was the one telling him that, oh, it's so worth it when you're done. She was like intensely looking at it and making sure it looked right. It just felt weird, like she was getting him this tattoo. Either way, their fun was interrupted when they found some fingers in the fries. And it's like, it's not funny, but it is, because like, if you found a finger in your food, like that's upsetting, and we still went everybody. But the movie, like it wasn't even a finger. It was like the whole, like it was this whole, it was a hand minus 3 fingers, honestly. You ain't noticed that? You ain't checked the bag? It was just sitting there on top, just a whole ass hand and a ring. Like, always check your bags, kids. Yeah, but it turns out that Dakota actually killed that professor. That was his hand. That was his whole ass hand. She killed him, and then she killed herself. Presumably because Pathway told her to. So now that 2 of his friends are dead, his detective uncle is a little concerned. He tells Jake that he is concerned for his safety. He doesn't know what those kids have gotten themselves into, but it's not good. So the next day, Jake and Marisol go up to his uncle's cabin, and he basically tells them everything about the Pathway, about everything that was happening with Conrad and Dakota, and just put it all out there. His uncle tries to convince him that it's probably nothing, but does let him know that he's meeting with the FBI the next day, so he will let them know about the Pathway and they can look into it. He then suggests that Jake and Marisol just stay at the cabin for a couple of days until things die down. The next scene is just them all cuddled up in front of the fireplace, kind of making out with each other. Doesn't get too far because he has another vision and is like, we need to leave. Someone told him to just get in the car and start driving. They're going down the road and they see his uncle's truck crashed on the side of the road. And he didn't make it. The next scene is just his uncle's funeral, and it's just him kind of starting to put the pieces together and maybe leaning a little more towards demonic possession. He really spends the next couple of scenes just tracking down answers. He is asking the priest about possessions in the Bible. He's seeing like little clips around the church. He even ends up going to the tattoo artist because he noticed when he was getting a tattoo that he actually had a pentagram and the symbol of a devil worshiper on his arm. I don't know what that is, but that's what he had. And Jake is like, hey, you used to worship Satan. And the guy's like, yeah, I did a long time ago, but I'm a Christian now. But then proceeds to like give him all of the information on how to worship Satan, and even gives him the name of like the guy in town that would help him. It's like, I don't do that anymore, but I do know a guy, so here you go. So Jake goes to the devil guy's house, and he's like telling him basically everything that he suspected was probably true. He lets him know that it's interesting that they call it the pathway, because that's what they call the connection between the devil and his minions or something. And then he shows him like this magazine clip of a guy, super scary, that apparently is like the guy to conjure Satan. And I just, guys, his name is Aiden. Like, that's the least intimidating name he could possibly have. Like, watch out, it's Satan's right-hand man, Aiden. Like, the fuck? But it actually turns out that he'd actually had a vision of Aiden earlier in the movie. Apparently, Aiden became so powerful because he killed Conjurer Dude's wife. I guess the Conjurer wasn't willing to sacrifice a human, and so Aiden took upon himself to take his wife and unborn child and do it for him. We then cut to Jake fumbling around his basement looking for something. There's a string of flashbacks now. And then out of fucking nowhere, Conrad's ghost just shows up. He apparently knocked him out and took him to Aiden's house. I didn't know ghosts could do that. And then Aiden gives this whole long-winded ass speech, basically letting Jake know that he is like the Prince of Darkness, Satan's son, the chosen one. He is special, baby. In fact, the only reason that the pathway existed was so that they could find him, because he was stolen from them. Then Jake's new tattoo starts moving around on some dark mark shit, and it freaks him out. He ends up pushing Aiden over a balcony. Dude died. Cracked his head in the inside fountain and died. Okay, y'all, like the last 15 minutes of this movie is wild. Like, it moves. So for some reason, now that he has all of the answers and he knows that he is the son of Satan or some shit, Jake decides to go back to his uncle's cabin. Don't know why. He walks in, sees the lady from the very beginning of the movie that was laying in that random ass shed, laying on the floor in his uncle's cabin. She gets up, walks over to him all extra slow, touches his face, then he gets like a super vision where he sees like his parents running around the woods from some monster. I'm still confused, y'all. I'm still confused. She then, without saying a single word this entire time, like takes him outside, leads him to like this weird sacrifice circle, and then just stands there. And then he's just presented with this goblet full of blood, which is kind of impressive because that means A, you found a goblet and enough blood to fill it. Except it's his parents' blood. Yeah, he looks up and they're just like dead, hanging from a tree. Don't know how they got there. And this obviously upset him because why did you kill his parents? So he runs over to stab her. Y'all. She turns into fucking Marisol! Like, and the mess keeps coming.
But wait! There's more!
A, it's Marisol, so why is she two different people? Then it turns out that not only was it the girl that he'd been kind of dating this whole time, turns out it's his fucking mom. She's his mom.
What? The actual what?
So mommy proceeds to tell him that she couldn't present herself to him until he was ready, which, and basically tells him that he has to make a choice. He either joins her in his rank as like the Dark Prince, or like becomes human. And it looks like he's gonna go with her. They're making out again. Like, the first time I can forgive you, but dog, you know that's your mama now.
You nasty.
But it was tricking her. He actually goes to stab her, and I don't think that went well. I'm not really sure. It was all kinds of confusing. If anything, it pissed her off because then she makes him drink the blood in the goblet, and he starts having a mega vision. And then he just wakes up the next day in the middle of this circle surrounded by dead bodies. And he's getting arrested because the cops obviously think it's him because, again, you're surrounded by dead bodies covered in blood and your friends were just going around killing people 3 days ago. And then we end the movie with this monologue about how, I guess, the mom was pissed off that he tried to kill her, and since she couldn't kill him back, she just was like punishing him for choosing to be human by making him the murder suspect. I don't fucking know. That's the weirdest thing. Like, you're Lady Satan. Like, you could do all kinds of things. You're making his friends kill people through phones and shit, and you're gonna punish him by making him go through the fucking American legal system? Like, it's so bizarre.
That doesn't make no sense.
Once again, my friends, that was the 2004 film Devour. Should probably check it out. It's not the worst way to spend your afternoon. And I don't know, like, it's not that bad of a movie. Visually, it's really, really cool. I do enjoy a lot of the visions that he had, a lot of the more gruesome stuff, which is not typically what I watch these movies for. I do think they did a really good job. It worked. What they did worked really well in the movie. I just have questions. And they're not gonna get answered anytime soon, if ever. I'm certainly not gonna watch this movie again anytime soon. I've watched it 3 times in the last 24 hours. I am done. Y'all are welcome. I like the concept, but what? Then at the end of the day, I can't complain too much because this is a movie starring Jensen Ackles. So anyway, if you have any other movie suggestions, feel free to list them in the comments below. If you like this video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. And if you could, go ahead and hit that subscribe button so you'll be notified when I upload every week. I'll see you guys next time. Bye.